Good evening, everybody. Thanks for attending tonight. I think that we will go ahead and get started. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to present an overview of the Sustainability Update project and gather feedback and answer questions. My name is Stephanie Hansen. I'm the Assistant Director in the newly formed Community Development and Infrastructure Department, which is a merger of the Planning and Public Works departments. Before we get started, Spanish translation is available for anybody who needs it for tonight's meeting. And we'll also have that available for the question and answer session that will follow. Mickey, do you want to?
Buenas tardes. Traducción en español está disponible para la presentación hoy y también para cualquier pregunta que tengan después de la sesión. Gracias. Thank you.
Okay, before we get started with today's presentations, we have a few introductions to make. This project team consists of county staff, specifically the Community Development and Infrastructure Department's policy group, who prepared the draft documents that make up this project. You already heard a little bit from Daisy Allen, who is our project manager. Also, we have Anais Shank, who's worked a lot in public facilities and transportation. Annie Murphy, and Natisha Williams are also on the team, and you just heard from Michaela Lopez, who is helping us with Spanish translation. Along the way, we've received a lot of feedback and support from staff from other county divisions and departments as well. Our design guidelines, which is part of the project, a new document, was a joint effort between staff and our consultant, MIG, Inc. We're developing an environmental impact report, which is being prepared by DUDEC. And we have a transportation consultant who's been helping us with traffic modeling, Kimley Horn. You can reach anybody on the project team by writing to the email shown on this slide at sustainabilityupdate@santacruzcounty.us. Before we get started with the meeting agenda, here's some logistical information. Today's meeting is being recorded, and the recording for this meeting, as well as that for subsequent meetings, will be available on our project website in both English and Spanish. Tonight we'll have a 35 to 40-minute presentation followed by questions and answers for the remainder of the meeting time. If you have access to a computer with a microphone, you can watch, listen, and provide comments through your computer using the Teams meeting link. If you do not have access to a computer with a microphone and wish to ask a question or make comments, you must call in by dialing 916-318-9542. When prompted, enter the conference ID 366-207-612 #. We can also provide this information in the chat. If you are participating by phone, you must also mute the sound on your computer. All participants are currently muted and the meeting chat is disabled during the presentation. Please remain muted and hold your questions until the end of the presentation. If you have a comment about something specific that we have covered in the slides, we can pull the slides back up and guide our discussion. At the end of the presentation, we will explain how to ask questions and make comments. As I mentioned, Michaela Lopez is here with us tonight to provide Spanish translation, and she's here in person, and she'll be able to do that during the Q&A question and answer session for those who have joined us virtually. Today's presentation will consist of a review of the background and vision for this project, followed by a discussion of project components, a discussion of various topic areas, and an overview of the environmental impact report components. We'll also discuss the project schedule and different ways to participate, and then we'll open up the meeting for public comments. First of all, what is the sustainability update? The project has 4 main components: amendments to the County of Santa Cruz General Plan, which includes our local coastal program, amendments to the county code to implement the plan, new county design guidelines, and amendments to land use and zoning maps. We'll discuss each of these project components in more detail in this presentation. The sustainability update has several key goals. First, the project implements the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, which was a planning study adopted by the Board of Supervisors back in 2014. Second, the project aims to update, streamline, and modernize the zoning code and other related code sections. The project also addresses growth. Santa Cruz County, like all California jurisdictions, is required under state planning law to plan for and accommodate a certain amount of population, housing, and economic growth. So this update of the general plan anticipates a 20-year planning horizon from 2020 to 2040. Finally, consistency with the newly adopted county plans and new state legislation also informs the project. Planning law requires that jurisdictions reflect and be consistent with a variety of state laws, as well as regional plans developed for the area. And if the jurisdiction is located near the coast, the California Coastal Act. At the local level, the project has to be consistent with the county's strategic plan, the climate action strategy, economic vitality study, the Parks Department strategic plan, and the current Department of Public Works Capital Improvement Program, as well as the long-range facilities plan and also the county design criteria. The project is also consistent with the recently released draft transportation plan for Santa Cruz County. Excuse me, with the active transportation plan for Santa Cruz County. At the regional level, the project is consistent with the Association of Monterey Bay Governments Sustainable Communities Plan, as well as the Regional Transportation Commission's Regional Transportation Plan. At the state level, the project is consistent with SB 375, the Sustainable Communities Act, AB 358, Complete Streets, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, and the current requirements for general plans, which now include environmental justice requirements. Additionally, the project is consistent with the California Coastal Act and the California Coastal Commission strategic plan. We wanted to share some background on the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan. If you weren't involved in that project, it was a public visioning exercise focused mostly on new development within the county's coastal urban area, and particularly our higher growth areas of Live Oak and Soquel. The plan was accepted by the Board of Supervisors in 2014. Development of the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan involved intensive public participation. A series of 16 community workshops were held throughout the county from 2012 to 2014. Topics for community meetings included overall visioning and plans for certain focus areas in the county's urban areas. There was also an advisory group, business involvement, and many stakeholder interviews. The result of these meetings was a vision for urban development in Santa Cruz County and guiding principles to achieve that vision. These guiding principles, which have been carried over into the general plan, include focused development, transportation choices, open space and resource preservation, unique community character, economic vitality, housing options, equity and inclusive decision-making, governmental coordination, and fiscal sustainability. The Sustainable Santa Cruz Plan also resulted in recommendations for land use and transportation. These Key recommendations included concentrating infill development in the urban services near transportation corridors and high activity areas, developing a multimodal transportation network, updating development review to consider vehicle miles travel as well as parking standards, and establishing new zone districts and standards to encourage multifamily housing, mixed use, and modern workplace development. It also includes supporting medical facilities in the Soquel Drive area. To learn more about the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, visit the Sustainability Update project website vision page. We also wanted to share some of the background regarding the code modernization effort. The county code was adopted back in the 1950s, and it has been amended in piecemeal ways over the years. As a result, land use regulations, including zoning, housing, and permit requirements, have become increasingly complex. There's a need to make these regulations more user-friendly, and in particular, in 2014, there was identified need to update the county's development permit framework, as well as a need to modernize various agricultural regulations to reflect modern needs and practices. In 2015 to 2016, the County Board of Supervisors reviewed a number of draft updates to portions of the county code related to the permit framework and ag regulations, and established new development standards and zone districts that had been identified in the plan. At that time, the board directed staff to continue to work on these updates, as well as additional updates that have been identified in the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, and prepare an environmental impact report. The sustainability update fulfills this direction from the board. Now Daisy's going to talk a little bit about project components.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. So as mentioned, the sustainability update includes 4 components. First, the project will comprehensively amend the introduction, land use, and circulation elements of the general plan, incorporating a new emphasis on sustainability and integration of the vision and guiding principles and recommendations from the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, new population, housing, and employment targets for 2040, and integrated strategies and policies from various local, regional, and state plans and regulations. The land use element is being renamed as Built Environment and integrates existing chapters 2, Land Use, and 8, Community Design, with a focus on residential and commercial development. The circulation element is being renamed Access and Mobility to reflect a focus on movement of people rather than movement of vehicles. And the project partially amends Chapter 5, Conservation and Open Space, renamed Agriculture, Resources, and Conservation. Changes in that chapter focus on agricultural, timber, and water and groundwater policies. The project also partially amends Chapter 7, Parks, Recreation, and Public Facilities, to be consistent with the Parks Strategic Plan and ensure that county facilities are adequate to accommodate projected growth. Other general plan chapters include, will not be changed substantively, and these chapters include Chapter 4, Housing, which is scheduled to be amended next year, Chapter 6, Public Safety, which was amended in 2020 and is in review with the Coastal Commission currently, and Chapter 9, Noise, which was adopted in 2019. The second component of the project is amendments to the county code. These amendments include updates to Title 12, Building, Title 13, Planning and Zoning, and Title 18, Procedures. There are also small associated changes to Titles 5 and 15. Overall, these code amendments serve to both modernize the code and align with changes being made to the general plan and local coastal program. The project will also include adoption of new Santa Cruz County design guidelines, as mentioned. These guidelines include best practices for both building and streetscape design. The guidelines document is intended to guide the design of all projects, but especially multifamily, residential, and commercial development in the urban area. There are also guidelines specifically for the Pleasure Point commercial corridor included as an appendix to the document. Finally, the project includes targeted land use changes and rezoning on 23 parcels located throughout the county. Please look at the project website for more information about project components. So now we wanted to discuss the proposed changes in a little bit more detail by topic. So these topics correspond to project fact sheets that are available here in person and also on the project website. The first topic area is sustainable development. The 3 pillars of sustainability are environment, economy, and equity. Overall, the sustainability update plans for development that can accommodate the county's projected growth while maintaining and improving the environment, economy, and quality of life for those who live and work here. Like all jurisdictions, the county will grow in the next 20 years and beyond. Based on policies and regulations included in the sustainability update, the environmental impact report has estimated housing and commercial growth to 2040, as shown in the table on this slide. The general plan, built environment element, county code, and Santa Cruz County design guidelines plan for this growth by applying sustainable design principles to all scales of development, from the regional scale down to individual buildings and sites. At the regional scale, development would continue to be focused within the urban and rural services lines in order to protect the environment and open space, and growth would be coordinated with neighboring jurisdictions and planning agencies. The county's environmental protection regulations would remain intact. At the community scale, land use and transportation development would be coordinated and concentrated along key corridors and at activity centers. At the neighborhood scale, the sustainability update plans for services and amenities to be located within a 15-minute walk distance from home for urban county residents. At the building scale, new emphasis is placed on green building and site design features, such as solar design and stormwater capture and development and treatment. The new design guidelines provide best practices to ensure neighborhood compatibility and encourage public gathering places, quality open space, and the inclusion of green building and site design features. For more information about sustainable development, please see chapters 1 and 2 of the general plan, as well as the fact sheet on sustainable development. And this slide indicates the overall focused growth strategy of the sustainability update. So as you can see, growth is focused within the urban services line, which is indicated in blue. In the unincorporated coastal urban area, growth is planned around key transportation corridors. Outside this urban area, the county's open space, agriculture, and rural residential lands would continue to be protected. Okay, so then in terms of the built environment, the general plan and county code amendments focus primarily on residential and commercial development in the urban area. Policies encourage infill housing for residents of all household sizes and income levels. In particular, the county will continue to support accessory dwelling units and will also support small lot single-family home development, missing middle housing types such as duplexes and triplexes, and small townhome and apartment projects, and revised development standards such as floor area ratios, building setbacks and height, and density bonus provisions further enable multifamily development, while maintaining key provisions such as open space requirements and buffering to ensure that new developments are livable and context appropriate. Also, the new residential flex multifamily zone district is created for compact housing near key corridors and activity centers. Commercial policies encourage activity centers for employment, medical services, community gathering, and shopping and entertainment. The new Workplace Flex Zone District accommodates a variety of commercial and light industrial land uses. New development standards have been added for mixed-use residential and commercial development, as well as for hospitals and medical mixed-use development to address unique needs of these types of developments. Updates to allowed land uses and permit requirements in residential and commercial zone districts align with modern practice and state laws. The new design guidelines include overarching guidelines as well as specific guidance for multifamily commercial, mixed use, and workplace flex developments, as with special consideration to site planning, building design, open space, parking, community character, transportation corridors, and other issues. To learn more about the built environment topic area, please attend community meeting number 2, which is scheduled for March 28th, and review General Plan Chapter 2, County Code Chapter 1310, the design guidelines, and the fact sheets on housing and commercial development. All right, and then on the topic of transportation, a new layered network approach to roadways connects communities and supports alternative modes of transportation. In this approach, certain user types are prioritized on certain streets. Major corridors include main streets, which prioritize pedestrians, active connectors, which prioritize bicyclists and pedestrians, and multimodal corridors, which are principal arterials accommodating all transportation modes. Local residential streets provide access to urban neighborhoods, and rural connectors and mountain agricultural streets provide access to rural areas. Policies and regulations address the streetscape and the role that streetscape design plays in how connections are made in the community. Safety is also emphasized, as is technology, which is changing rapidly nowadays with innovations such as electric vehicles, self-driving vehicles, app-based ride shares, shared vehicles, and micromobility options like electric scooters. Coastal access policies are also strengthened, ensuring that coastal access points to recreational opportunities continue to be provided. Transportation policies and regulations recognize vehicle miles traveled as a way of measuring how much people are driving and as a measure of how we're doing in our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Priorities are set for future capital improvement projects. New roads and roadway projects are also proposed, which will improve the county's circulation system. The existing transportation demand management system in the county code has been significantly improved and expanded. Parking and internal site circulation standards have been updated to make sure that these requirements for various project types are right-sized. Parking standards for some types of development have been reduced in order to support smaller units and more compact development in urban areas. To learn more about the transportation topic area, please attend community meeting number 3, which is scheduled for April 5th, and review the draft general plan, chapter 3, county code chapters 1316 and 1510, design guidelines, and the transportation fact sheet. All right, and then on the topic of community services, updates to the general plan parks, recreation, and public facilities element address the provision of community facilities and infrastructure to support both existing and future populations. Services such as water, sewer, telecommunications, fire, and police must be adequate to serve not only existing people and businesses, but also new growth. Parks policies and inventories have been updated to be consistent with the recently completed Park Strategic Plan. Also, water supply and conservation policies have been updated and consolidated, and new policies have been added to address the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. Additionally, updates to telecommunications policies address requirements related to broadband access and new technologies. To learn more about the community services topic area, please attend community meeting number 4, scheduled for April 12th, and review draft general plan chapter 7 and the community services fact sheet. All right, now Stephanie is going to share some information about agriculture.
Thank you, Daisy. On the topic of agriculture and natural resources, the project does not make substantive changes to environmental protection standards. The general plan and county code continue to protect agricultural, biological, cultural, and scenic resources and provide for the long-term sustainable management and conservation of water, timber, and mineral resources, as well as preserve open space areas. An open space inventory has been added to the general plan as required by law. Also, the boundaries of the scenic designation of Highway 1 are being adjusted to reflect the current status of scenic resources along this corridor. On agricultural land, the sustainability update allows for a broader range of land uses, including agricultural support uses such as agricultural research and development facilities and storage of farm equipment. Agritourism events such as farm stays and dinners, and on-farm education and sales, wineries and breweries, commercial weddings, and essential public services and utility extensions. New regulations include provisions to protect agricultural land and minimize the impact to adjacent properties. To learn more about the Agriculture and Natural Resources topic area, please attend community meeting number 4, scheduled for April 12th, and review the general plan chapter 5, County Code chapters 1310 and 1650, and the agricultural and natural resources fact sheet. Environmental justice is a new topic area that must be incorporated into general plans in California, either as a separate chapter or as policies within each chapter per SB 1000 and other recent state laws. Environmental justice means equitable protection from environmental and health hazards for everyone. County staff have chosen to address this important topic throughout the general plan rather than as a separate chapter. Environmental justices in the general plan are noted with an EJ. Environmental justice themes that are addressed in the new plan policies include pollution exposure and air quality, equitable access and safe sanitary homes, food, transportation, and other public services and facilities, physical activity opportunities, and community engagement opportunities, and improvements in programs that address the needs of disadvantaged communities. Disadvantaged communities are defined and mapped in General Plan Chapter 2. Disadvantaged communities are population groups that are disproportionately affected by environmental pollution or hazards, have high concentrations of low income, high rates of unemployment, low levels of home ownership, high rental burden, sensitive populations, or low levels of educational attainment. The county uses several definitions when mapping disadvantaged communities so as to be as inclusive as possible. The county's disadvantaged communities are located primarily around Watsonville and Live Oak, and as you can see from this map, which can be found in Chapter 2 of the general plan. Additional fringe or legacy communities are located in Davenport, along Highway 9, and outside city borders. And these have the potential to be defined as disadvantaged communities based on environmental and resource issues. More information is available on the Environmental Justice Fact Sheet and will be addressed in other upcoming community meetings as well. The sustainability update also incorporates the code modernization effort as discussed earlier in this presentation. Updates are proposed to the county code to clarify permit requirements and reduce processing time and uncertainty. Update and modernize land uses that are allowed in zone districts. In particular, the project would remove the unusual and unclear level 1 through 7 permit process and replace this with 2 types of permits: a site development permit related to physical development of a site and use permits related to land use. This permit framework is similar to that of many other jurisdictions. A use approval over the counter called a zoning clearance is also proposed. In terms of code organization, the proposed amendments consolidate procedural requirements, consolidate parking requirements, and consolidate information regarding appeal of coastal permits. The code amendments also modernize and update standards for a variety of land uses, including but not limited to residential care facilities, commercial weddings and other temporary events, visitor accommodations, outdoor storage, drive-up windows, animal regulations, and agricultural support uses. Obsolete standards such as local solar requirements and gas station requirements have been removed to ensure consistency with state law. Definitions have been updated to remove obsolete terms and add new terms that provide clarity as well as consistency with the general plan. To learn more about the code modernization topic, please attend community meeting number 5 scheduled for April 20th. Review county code amendments and the code modernization fact sheet. As mentioned earlier, the sustainability update also includes general plan land use map and zoning map amendments to 23 selected parcels throughout the county. There are 2 types of land use changes proposed. The first type is land use amendments to eliminate inconsistencies between the general plan, land use map, and the zoning districts on 13 parcels that are associated with mapping errors from the 1994 general plan. These maps show changes in North County and 1 in Davenport and 4 in South County, as shown on the map. In Mid-County, there are also 8 properties that will change to correct zoning and land use inconsistencies, and these are shown in the map on the left. The second type of land use amendment is intended to implement the project goal of increased housing options to help address the housing crisis. This portion of the project includes the rezoning of 10 underutilized parcels, including key opportunity sites along transportation corridors. 1 parcel at SoCal Drive and Thurber Lane is also in the map on the left, which is vacant and would be rezoned to a mix of residential flex and commercial zoning to facilitate a mixed-use development. The map on the right shows 9 additional parcels located along Portola Drive. These would also be rezoned to residential flex to facilitate a transition in the neighborhood to a mix of multifamily interspersed with neighborhood commercial. Consistent with the vision for the corridor and the Pleasure Point Vision and Guiding Principles planning study that was accepted by the board in 2018. To learn more about land use changes and zoning map changes, please attend community meeting number 5, scheduled for April 20th. As required by law, the county is preparing an environmental impact report, or EIR, to analyze project impacts. The EIR will analyze all topics as required by the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA. Some topics that need special evaluation in the EIR include addressing impacts related to aesthetics, agriculture, cultural resources, land use, population and housing, public services and utilities, and water supply and groundwater and transportation. The document will evaluate transportation impacts in terms of vehicle miles traveled as required by CEQA, but also operational information on how our roadways are doing in terms of level of service will also be provided for informational purposes, although we are no longer allowed to consider these impacts under CEQA. The EIR is scheduled to be released by the end of this month and will be available for public comment for a minimum of 45 days as required by CEQA. The EIR will also be posted on the county's main website, and hard copies will be available at the Government Center at 701 Ocean Street and at libraries. After the comment period, a final EIR will be prepared to address any comments prior to adoption of the amendments. Now, Daisy's going to talk a little bit about schedule and public input.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. So we wanted to take a moment to go over the timeline for this project. The draft general plan amendments, county code amendments, design guidelines, and map amendments were made available on the project website at the end of February and are available for your review now. You will be able to review and comment on these documents throughout the public process until the documents are adopted and certified. This evening's meeting is the first of a series of community meetings, which are scheduled through April 20th. The draft EIR, as Stephanie mentioned, is scheduled to be released by the end of March and will be open for public comment per CEQA guidelines. The Planning Commission, as well as other county commissions with an interest in the project, will hold study sessions in the spring and summer of this year. After these study sessions, the final EIR will be released, which will address public comments received on the draft EIR. At that same time, updated versions of general plan amendments, county code amendments, design guidelines, and map amendments may also be released, addressing comments on those documents received up until that point. Next, public hearings at the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors are scheduled to begin in August and be held through November. After adoption at the Board of Supervisors, most amendments will need to go on to the Coastal Commission for certification next year. And this slide shows a schedule of the upcoming community meetings that we've been noting. Today's presentation will be repeated at a virtual meeting this coming Monday, March 21st. And then there will be topical meetings held on the topics of built environment and community design, transportation, agriculture resources and public facilities, and code modernization and map amendments. After today's community meeting, the rest of the meetings will be virtual. So if you do have access to a computer, the best way to become more familiar with this project is through the project website. From the homepage, you can access project documents directly, or you can learn more about the topics we discussed today. There's also a section of the website called Get Involved, where you can read up on the latest project news, the schedule, sign up to receive project emails, submit a public comment, or take the project survey. We do highly encourage you to take the project survey, which was just released yesterday, because this will be an important tool that is used by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors as they're making decisions about the project. If you do not have access to a computer, hard copies of project documents are available at the Planning Department front counter at 701 Ocean Street on the 4th floor and at the Capitola Library. Okay, so now we've left some time for questions and discussion. To make a comment, if you're using a computer, you may type your comment or question into the meeting chat box, or you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand symbol at the top of the screen, choose Raise Hand, and wait to be called on. When the moderator announces your name or phone number, click on the microphone button at the top of your screen to unmute yourself and start speaking. To comment, please state your name and proceed with your comment. At the end of your comment, your microphone will be muted again. If you no longer have a comment or question, click again on the hand symbol to lower your hand. We are going to ask for any questions or comments here in the room first, then on the chat, and then we'll go through the raised hands. After that, we'll ask if anyone participating on the phone would like to comment. If you wish to provide a comment, enter *6 to unmute your phone, and you'll be called upon to provide your comment. Let's see. If we aren't able to answer your question or comment, you can submit an email directly to the email address on the screen, or submit your comment through the project website. And while we talk, we have listed some links to various resources that are available to you. You can learn more about the project and review the draft documents on the website at www.sccoplanning.com/sustainability update. As mentioned, through the Get Involved portion of the website, you can access the survey as well as the public comment portal. And once the draft EIR is released, you will be able to also submit comments on the EIR. Comments on the EIR should be submitted via email rather than the comment portal. You may also email any questions or comments to the team at sustainabilityupdate@santacruzcounty.us. And for the tech savvy among us, you can also use the QR code here on the screen to gain access to the project website. Okay, so with that, I think we'll open it up to questions. Okay, so we're going to go here in the room first. Is there anyone here in the room who has a question or comment? Okay, so let's go to the chat. Are there any questions on the chat, Natisha? No? Okay. Is there anyone here participating in the meeting today who would like to raise their hand and ask a question? Okay, looks like Alex Vartan has a question. Let's see. Are you able to unmute Alex?
Hello.
Oh.
Hi.
Yes, hello.
Hi, thanks. I know this has been a really big project over a long period of time. I've been very excited to start reading reading through the documents. I have a number of specific questions. I guess I'll just leave for the subsequent meetings, but I would love to hear if you can maybe give a little more detail on the process vis-a-vis you know, the planning consultants or other specialists that you have consulted in this process to draft all these updates. I think you mentioned the name of the consultant. Maybe you could mention that again. And also, just I'm curious if you could, maybe compare this effort to other ones that have occurred in different jurisdictions in California over the recent years, and maybe just speak to, how Santa Cruz County compares in our modernization efforts to other ones that have happened recently. So thanks.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that question. I think I'll kick us off and then I'll pass it over to Stephanie. Yeah, so just to start, just to let you know about the consultants that we're working with, currently on the project. We have Dudek as our EIR consultants, and then Kimley Horn is the traffic transportation sub-consultant. And then in preparation of the design guidelines, we worked with MIG. So they're also a consultant on the project. And I would say that during the development of the Sustainable Santa Cruz County planning study that we discussed during the visioning portion of this presentation, there was a lot of coordination with various different planning agencies and consultants as part of that process. And a lot of that work has now informed the draft documents that you see here on the website. And then sort of with that, I think I'll pass it to Stephanie.
Alex, thank you for your question. I was just going to add that there were several consultants that were available and worked on the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, including PlaceWorks, which did the document, and Fair and Piers did a lot of the traffic work. It's funny. I tend to think our project, if you consider all of that visioning that was done and all the community meetings that were done for the Sustainable Santa Cruz County Plan, I feel like our process really covered that visioning in the beginning, and it was a typical, planning process, and due to variety of issues, though, COVID, wildfires, staffing, pieces of the project that were removed from the original scope of work, which became their own amendments. Our process seemed to take quite a bit longer than one would hope for a general plan update and county code update. But that being said, it's a very large and comprehensive update. Our general plan, I can't remember if we talked about this, hasn't been updated comprehensively in 25 years. So there was a lot of work to do. So I feel like it might have been a little bit longer process in some communities, but I think the final product will be worth it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. maybe one other high-level question before, the more detailed questions probably more appropriate for subsequent meeting. But, given the Sustainable Santa Cruz Plan, or whatever you call it, the part that was done 7 years ago, the visioning process with the public was done, I guess, 6-7 years ago. And also, I think the Pleasure Point commercial corridor process was done, a number of years ago. I know that, a lot of that, the results from those public visioning process and the document was, drafted a long time ago, but, the world has changed even since 6-7 years ago, and some of the guidelines and conclusions, for instance, in the Pleasure Point plan, may not even be, I don't know, they may already be outdated. For instance, I don't know, height limits or, I don't know, things like that. I guess so. The high level question is, given that those documents and that process was done 6-7 years ago, has there, I guess, is there going to be opportunity to maybe rethink some of those conclusions for 2022, or has that already been done in this process, I guess?
Yeah, very good question. I would say a lot of the work that went into the amendments happened much more recently. And for instance, one of the things that we found was a real need to start addressing housing and being a little bit more aggressive about it. So while some things really made a lot of sense back when they were developed in the original plan, some things didn't make as much sense. Some things we studied that were in the original plan and found them in today's dollars to be not so cost effective and, an improvement. So adjustments were made along the way. And I would just also mention that the Pleasure Point plan was adopted in 2018. It wasn't, or accepted in 2018. It wasn't that long ago, but I think you're right. And I think further adjustments, next year, the county is going to have to update their the housing element. It's due at the end of next year, and we'll have an opportunity for more adjustments that need to be made, not so much in the zoning standards, but certainly in looking for properties that would make good opportunity sites for more housing.
Great, thanks. And I guess one just follow-up question is, have you guys consulted with local architects or developers or general contractors and asked for their input in terms of some of the details of the code modernization and the parameters in terms of really ensuring that you've gone through this process and that it is sort of I don't want to say one-shot deal, but the modifications down the road take time and effort. I just would hope that actually the goals are feasible, and the hope in terms of what we want to get developed and actually meeting these goals are feasible from a construction or architectural or development standpoint. So I just don't know, has that been done already, or is this basically the process that you guys have designed so that the developers or the contractors or the architects can provide feedback at this point?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of both. There was a lot of input that was given during the development of the Sustainable Santa Cruz plan, including stakeholder groups from industry professionals. So there's a lot of input during that process. And there were also many community meetings, and there were Board of Supervisor meetings also regarding other kind of industries such as agricultural and tourism and wineries, that kind of thing. So now there's an opportunity again, since it's out in the public realm now for public comment, there's an opportunity again to get more input and refine some of that participation if needed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. You have any other folks who want to make a statement or comment or ask a question? Any hands up? No, people are quiet tonight. Okay. Yeah. Well, if there's no other comments, we'll kind of close the meeting for tonight. I do want to mention that we will be posting all of our meetings on the website, and they'll be posted in both English and Spanish. And there are several community meetings that are about to happen after this one. On Monday night, we'll have a repeat of this particular presentation, and then we'll have four other, I don't have the list in front of me, but 4 other meetings on the built environment, transportation, ag and natural resources, and the code modernization and the zoning changes as well. So lots of other opportunities to weigh in, and those meetings will be more, a little bit more detailed, digging in more than we did tonight on some of those topic areas. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it, and I know that we'll be hearing from you soon. Thank you.